Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week. Yes, I'm on my own today. This is a new section of the podcast called My Wednesday, where you've had enough of listening to us 6, 7 rabble on for a few years. So you're going to listen to one of yourselves. So yeah, that's right. We're going to listen to what you Wednesdayites have got to say and all your stories and musings. So this evening I'm joined by Tom. Tom, thank you for joining us. You all right?
Yeah, great to have you. Thanks, Ash, and it's great listening to you over the years on my usual commute. So yeah, pleasure to be on.
Oh no, brilliant! Thanks for having us. Yeah, so we might as well get to the beginning, shall we? So, what made you, or who made you, become a Wednesdayite? So, at the beginning, start from the beginning, mate.
Well, I think like most of us, it's my old fella, my dad. He in 1990, when I was, I think about 6 years old, I will have been six. Decided to drag me along to my first Wednesday game. 6-year-old, you don't really know much about the world here and much about football in general. But my dad's a big Wednesday fan, has been since sort of his childhood. Although he grew up in Leeds, so we kind of dodged a bullet there, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we, but his dad, my granddad, was into sport, and he got into football and followed Wednesday, and he was there in the sort of 70s and 80s. Some of the darkest, lowest ebb kind of stuff. Stood on the cop on Boxing Day, Massacre Day, and stood there when there were no roof on and got wet and got snowed on, and many memories from that era. And obviously, as his firstborn, there were only going to be one option really.
And these days we moan when there ain't a bloody pie at the stall on the cop or something.
Oh, there's no chips.
Oh, there's no chips, yeah. And we've got people from stood on the cop in proper weather.
Proper weather, yeah. Ankle deep in everything else, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so yep. I know it's not my podcast; it's your podcast. But yeah, very much same for me, mate. That my old man was a Wednesday supporter, but not as prolific as thing. We went to the odd game. I remember going, but yeah, same as a lot of people born into it, and that's there's no best way, but that's a way that a lot of people are like that, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think you have a duty as a father. I've just seen your young ones walk in there, and I think you've got a duty for a father to steer them on the right path as it's such. So yeah, he took me along in 1990. We did Tottenham Hotspur 1990. A team from Tottenham that included Mabbott, Lineker, Gascoigne.
Yeah, great team to watch.
Yeah, typical Wednesday. Got beat 4-2. 4-0 down till 80 something minute. I've just had a look this afternoon. 4-0 down, and Erskine Dale and Atkinson got 2 back, but it sort of sowed the seed then. And I don't remember much of the game, but I do know quite vividly. We sat in the north in the old wooden seats towards the cop side. Don't remember much of the game. Remember it being dark going home as such, but sort of that started it off. For me, really, that sort of Wednesday game and going with your dad and spending Saturday afternoons with your dad. That's really what a lot of it were about.
Yeah, blowing it, mate. It's like you're reading my history here, mate, as well. So exact same. I remember sitting on the north at the cop end, and same. But my memory is shocking. I'm really bad, and my family and a lot of people tell you that. So I can remember very, very little and bits and pieces. Like I say, I wasn't a diehard going, like I say, but in the last 5-6 years, like I say, with the lad, I've done the right thing. Well, this season he's saying I've done the right thing.
I bet he is, yeah.
Because that's like I say, he's been into it. He's 14 now, and he's been into it the last 5-6 years. So he's loving it at the minute.
Yeah, it's a special thing. I think it's a special thing.
Oh yeah, I love it. And Saturdays took me and the boy would go home and away virtually every match. So it's the rest of the lady half of the family. I love it because they get all day together. So I've got a daughter as well. So she loves it. So yeah, for me it's great. So obviously in those early days growing up, there's always, like everybody, there's a favourite player. Can you recall who probably was the player that you first fell in love with? Like, not a player obviously, but the game and Sheffield Wednesday, and you thought, I want to be him. I want to put my boots on and
Yeah, well, we were spoilt really. Child of the 90s. First game in 1990. That season we got relegated, obviously, out of the first division into the Division 2. So really spoilt as a an 8-year-old going down to Hillsborough and seeing the likes of Nielsen, Nigel Pearson, Chris Ward, Sheridan, big Carl Palmer.
Keep saying them. I'm just reminiscing. I'm just.
And then of course you got the boy wonder up top, David Hurst. So it's hard for me to look past David Hurst because he was so prolific in that sort of early 90s period. But it's a real close one between David Hurst and Chris Waddle because I remember Chris Waddle getting signed, and my dad had a copy of a VHS called Chris Waddle the French Way, and it was all of his time at Marseille.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Absolutely ripping left backs to pieces in France. Giving the old step over. So it's really hard for me to look past those two. I think Hursty shades it for me. I've met him, had a pleasure of meeting him a few times, and he's just a great guy. He's from Barnsley, our neck of the woods in South Yorkshire, and his old man was a miner in Cuddiff, and so there's a lot of South Yorkshire stuff, roots in David Hurst. I suppose what's hard when you look back at that era is when we were unfortunate. We went down to Arsenal on the day that he got tackled in '93 from behind, and ripped his various muscles from his Achilles and all of that, which really did him for that season. But I think David Hurst for me, number 9, David Hurst, absolutely smashing him in. And I think a little bit later on in that sort of era, when he's doing the Puma King adverts and he's levering the crossbar from like 40 yards out. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I played right back. Yeah, I mean, I played right back as a kid. I had zero, lots of enthusiasm, but not a lot of skill and more time on the subs bench until I did a bit of goalkeeping. But David Hurst for me, pictures on the wall, fantastic player.
Yeah, so I was going to say, you were tapping your dad up for some Puma Kings.
I think so.
I always remember. I was the same. I was never a footballer. Interested in it, but never. I was a rugby player. But it was always the footballers. You look at the adverts, Puma Kings and such like. I'm no doubt it's the same. My lad, he doesn't play football. For anyone, but I'm sure it is for lads now these days, or anyone you see the boots, but they're not like 40, 50 quid now. They're like 300 quid, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think you look at someone. I've got nephews that are footballing age, and I take my daughter to a football class on a Saturday morning, and you see them all going in the older age groups. My daughter's only 2, so we go in the younger class, but you see the older age groups. They've all got really bright coloured boots, and they look like they've never been on a muddy field because they're all on 3G, and I'm sure none of them would take a stud off an opponent that stands on your toe in the centre half. So for me, like Puma Kings and Adidas Predators of the day, iconic, aren't they? In that kind of boots.
They are. These obviously you can't argue with the era you grew up, because obviously I'm a couple of years older than you, but yeah, it's the same sort of era I grew up in, and you mentioned Waddle there, and it's just a quick thing. Me and Dan off the podcast, we went to Marseille in 2016 for the Euros, and we went to a bar, and there was a scarf above a bar with Waddle in like Le God, and the geezer behind the bar wouldn't take 150 euros. I think Dan got up to buy it off him. Wouldn't have it. So he is. For me,
in France, it's proper iconic. Yeah, as a player, I went when I was at catering college. We went to do a French exchange, and we were in the northeast of France. So proper sort of a mile, as far as you can get from Marseille as you could probably try without coming to England. And we stayed in this young lad's house, and massive Marseille fan. So as soon as you start talking about football, and you mentioned Sheffield Wednesday, Chris Waddle, even that was like 10 years after he finished playing, for Wednesday. Chris Waddle, and he's just revered in France. But if you look back at some of that older footage, he puts Ronaldo to shame in that right wing position. Absolutely, ripping right backs and left backs to pieces.
It's a shame, and I mean, the 90s with the late 80s, early 90s, still a lot of video footage, but just imagine with the social media and the footage of, I know we've seen in the news, camera footage that's allegedly, but camera footage or anything of players of that ilk and that era, it would have been.
I mean, you sort of look back at the stuff he did sort of later on in his career after Wednesday, Bradford, and even they're going, later on when he started playing at amateur level, he still turns out for pub teams and various Saturday teams. Now he still drops the shoulder and he's gone. Best part of 50 odd years old. So class never leaves you, as they say.
Very much so. Very much so. Have you on your obviously watch Wednesday as much as you can and everything? So is there a story that picks out from your last, I don't know, maybe 20 years or something, or anything that gives you a bit of an insight into your obviously your love for Sheffield Wednesday, your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think we started, me and my dad, in 92 properly. Season before the Premiership started, when we finished third in the league, went to all those games, stood on the cop before it became all seater. And I always remember my dad sort of leaving me to wander off on the cop. He could see me, but wander down to the front, sit on the white wall, and then the policeman used to come just before kick-off and kick your legs over, so you weren't sort of leg side of the football pitch. So that sort of era kicked us off. Really great team at that. To finish third in the league, behind Leeds and Man United that season. What a season! And that qualified us for the Europa League. What is now the Europa League, but the UEFA Cup in the 92-93 season. And really privileged in that time. Down to Wembley for the United game. Saw the Waddle free kick. That lives in my memory. Saw, obviously, then we get to the League Cup final. Down to the League Cup final, we had rubbish seats at that final. Sat really low in the old Wembley Bowl. Saw nothing apart from the lap of honour. So missed John Arks' goal and all. Didn't see none of that. Saw the lap of honour at the end after we got beat.
Cracking day out then.
Cracking day out, yeah. I've got loads of pictures, and I can't remember any of the game. But I can remember the United game. But I think from that season, probably what really does stand out for me is we went to both the Europa League games, UEFA Cup games, home. We didn't go away, probably because my mum won't let me dad, drag us all to Luxembourg and Kaiserslautern. But I think my wife's glad we're not in Europe, because it would be the first. We'd be gone.
It would be. I'd probably be out of a job. I'd be taking days off, and no doubt a lot of people do that. For the Premier League, they do.
When's the coach leaving? 1 o'clock, no problem. We'll be on the bus.
That's the one. Yeah.
But I remember the Spora Luxembourg game, and we thrashed those. And I don't remember much of the goals, but I remember Paul Warhurst swallowing his tongue, got concussed, and then he were out a couple of games. So I remember that game. But what really sticks in my mind that season is the Kaiserslautern home game. We got beat in the away leg in Germany. Came back, David Hurst is suspended, got sent off in there for a cheap foul if you watch it back on YouTube. But I always remember that we got told about the atmosphere in Germany, and it were raucous, and there's flares going off and noise. And I always remember Wednesday trying to recreate somewhat of that atmosphere. So I think we had tickets in the south stand, fairly high up. But I always remember the club hung microphones above the crowd in the cop, and were like replaying the noise from the cop all the way around the stadium. And I always remember that game just being so loud from Wednesday fans. I mean, we drew 2-2. Sheridan, if you've watched it back on YouTube, Sheridan scores an absolute worldie of a free kick. Really great night. So absolutely amazing, proper amazing season to be part of. First year as a season ticket holder, really loved it. And then we get to the FA Cup final. So it's like we've done Europe, we've done beating United at Wembley, we've done League Cup final, FA Cup final.
If that don't make you fall in love with Wednesday, nothing will it?
Lo and behold, my mum and dad have booked an holiday to go to France, FA Cup final weekend. So we've done all these games. My dad's never seen Wednesday in a cup final. His dad did. My uncle did. He was a big Wednesday fan. My uncle went to the 66 final, and I got his ticket stub recently from the 66 final. Nice. My dad never seen Wednesday in a cup final. Absolutely devastated. Anyway, got this holiday, can't get a refund. So the FA Cup final Saturday morning, we're due to go on holiday. So my dad said, right, no problem, but we need to be at the campsite outside of Paris before 4 o'clock French time, 3 o'clock UK time, kickoff time. So my dad in his Renault 19 drives from Doncaster like a bat out of hell to get an early ferry, then to blast from Calais to the campsite outside of France. And if you've ever been to France or driven in France, nowhere's close. So he's driving like an absolute lunatic. Anyway, cut long story short, walk into this bar, 5 minutes to kick off, get sat down on the match. Of course, we draw first final draw. Replay in 4 days' time. 4 days' time, we're due in the south of France.
Wow.
So for 3 days, I'm an absolute lunatic through France to get to the campsite to watch the replay. And of course, Wednesday, as usual, break all of us at our hearts and lose the replay.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Blair, I've put you on specially. I brought you onto the side to talk about men's grooming, downstairs grooming.
Well, as you know, I'm the biggest men's grooming guy in the biz today, Foot.
Well, of course you are. Of course you are. And I know that you're a big gym guy. I know you're a big runner. And have you ever been out and about and all of a sudden you've got what can be described as a small fire down there?
It's as red as a fire engine down there sometimes, Foot.
Well, I tell you what, that's a good point, because right now, the Wednesday week for the next few weeks is going to be brought to you by Manscaped. And we're giving away, we're giving away discounts on the Manscaped 4.0 bundle.
What's it include?
I've got, it's the performance package, mate. You've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, a Crop Reviver toner, so, you know, it brings it back if you need it. Performance boxer briefs, if performing is an issue for you, mate.
I'm fully seeded, but you know,
fully seeded. I enjoy that. Yeah. So and then we've got all the bits that'll keep it off the bathroom floor. We've got it's waterproof. It cuts down the issue that you might get. It helps reduce the likelihood of getting an ingrowing hair as well.
Perfect. And that's
you know
from a Gillette fan.
In it. So I thought you'd be a fan. So listen, you guys back home, you guys watching and listening right now, you can get a discount on this if you enter the code TWW20 into the checkout at the end, and you can get yourself a 20% discount. That's the Manscaped 4.0 bundle. Get on it. The Wednesday week is also brought to you by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. I bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Oh, brilliant! That, I mean, envious of going to France, mate, but obviously not envious about this the trip you had. So, what about the present day? Go on, right? So we're having good times at the minute. So in the last, we might as well go the last couple of years since Darren Moore. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you first reached out, you sort of asked the question, what's brought you back in, to being so passionate about Wednesday? And for a lot of years, so I did 2005 Kings of Cardiff, all that business, that season we're really ingrained in it. And then you sort of get back into the championship grind, and then we've got the Carlos period and that, some great stuff in there, some bad stuff in there. Went to Wembley, brilliant days. And then, we go back into this like wilderness period before Darren Moore, where it's just Pulis, it's Monk, it's Bruce.
I don't remember that. I think I've got that through alcohol out of my memory.
That's probably the best way to have dealt with it, I think. And at that time, you're sort of thinking, where's this heading to? What we're doing? And you've got the problems with the wages and problems with FFP and all that. And you think, this is not coming together. And then, I think last year, under Darren Moore, you could see some sort of bright sparks. Obviously, playoff run, that really helped. And I'd been going off and on over the last sort of 10 years, really. Work took a different turn, and then obviously you start a family, so you kind of lose, having that free time just to, get off and run, and having a baby over COVID and all of that. So you kind of lost touch a bit. And then what really started us off getting really back into Wednesday, well, this year, the kit launch. You know, it came out really nice and early. You know, lots of hype around it. Really decent designs for me as a sort of ingrained Umbro lover of our Umbro kits. You know, the stripes in the right place. The fact that we've got a yellow away kit with light blue. For me, that's, you know, it pulled on all the nostalgic heartstrings. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get these kits, and I got my little girl a Wednesday away kit. And I thought, I'm going to go and grab all my kits out of the loft and just have a look at, you know, my Wednesday shirts of old and just see how, you know, the current ones stack up to what we've got. You know, so you start digging out these shirts, you know, 93 shirts, 92 shirts, you know, stuff from, you know, Waddles on the back, the Hearsts on the back, you know, then you get to like the Reggie Blinkers and the DiCanios and the Carbonis and, you know, even the more obscure people on the back of shirts that I've got, you know, the likes of Dejan Stefanovic and Mark de Grijs and Klaas Ingerson and, you know, the sort of late 90s, still, you know, oozing with class type of players. And, you know, you start, you know, it rekindles all this love affair of Wednesday that you kind of go off and on with. So I decided to I said to the missus, do you mind if I go back to football? Having a 1.5-year-old at that time, time's precious. Work, you know, work takes a lot. Family takes lots of, you know, gonna get to a few games. So went along to watch Wednesday Barnsley. Just bought a ticket back in the same area the Cot where I used to sit. Terrible game to go and watch. You know, we played awful, but actually I could see it. You know, you go to a Wednesday game, and some games you just think, what is going on? But other games you start thinking, actually, there's something in this. And then, you know, picked up a few games, went to the Ipswich one, went to a few others, and really just sort of started seeing. And getting it, I don't know if you feel it, but when you go to Hillsborough, some days you go to Hillsborough, and when we've not been great, you get that sense of everybody's trudging down Penistone Road or Leppins Lane or coming down past Berries and all that, and sometimes you can just feel the depression in the air. But this year you sort of walk into Hillsborough, and everybody's got an extra spring in the step. They want to get to the stadium, want to get through the turnstile. And it's got a real positive atmosphere on it. So not only are we playing well, you know, and Darren Moore's doing a cracking job. I'll come on that in a second, but I think that the club have sort of got a grip of it this year more than anything. You know, they've added a fan park, fan zone behind the shop, and I think that's helped. So, you know, lots of Wednesday fans together. The kits are decent. You know, the pre-match stuff is good around the stadium. The beer's better for one, so you can get an half decent pint in Hillsborough these days. So they've, you know, sort of added a lot up.
I'm a Wednesday pale man. I don't drink.
Yeah, it's good.
Lager's crap. Good. Yeah, so I do. It's good. I do appreciate a good pint there now.
It's good. Yeah, I mean, I took my dad to for the first time in maybe 20 years.
Roles reversed then.
Roles reversed. Yeah, I just said to him, I mean, a Fleetwood game when with cheap tickets. Said, "You want to come, Dad? I'm going to get tickets for Fleetwood." Awful game of football, mine. Like watching the dog and duck. But I said to my dad that you want to come. So my dad's not been to Hillsborough, you know, since probably 2001. You know, when I stopped going because I started working and stuff. So I took my dad, and he were amazed that you could actually get a pint in Hillsborough because, you know, you wind the clock back to the 90s. You got absolutely naff all chance of getting a pint anywhere in Hillsborough. So, you know, we had a drink and happy days. So I think there's a vibe about Wednesday at the minute, but it's not just what's on the pitch. But I think that's such a massive part of it. You know, when you're winning and you're winning like we're winning at the minute, and Darren Moore's doing the things that Darren Moore's doing, and you know, it's clapping along to Hio Silver Lining, and there's just something going on there, and it is down to him. And listening to your pod and a few of the other pods, the Football League one and stuff, you can just see the admiration of the work that Darren Moore's put in around Hillsborough and around Wednesday, but around the rest of the football world. So, you know, he is doing some great stuff. He's got a lot to take credit for, but he's also weathered some flack over the last sort of year and a half. You know,
still gets it sometimes, Tom.
It's insane, really. I mean, he's got one of the highest win percentages of any Wednesday manager ever. He's on, you know, the club record clean sheets, club record streak, and you've still got people saying, well, he makes the wrong substitutions, and he's, you know, I'm going to game plan. And you think, have a day off, will you? Just have a day off.
It is. and the argument is of look at what league we're in and all this, but irrespective of what league it is, yes, we all want to be in the Premier League and that, but you've got to get out of this league, and the only way of getting out of this league is winning matches, and 21 unbeaten for me is a great start, especially at this time of the season when the pressure is now all on the chasing pack.
And I've never seen, I mean, even we talked about the 1990s, I've never seen Wednesday going to run unbeaten run like this. Regardless of what league, talking to my dad, he remembers, early 70s, mid 70s when it was dire football.
Yeah.
And then you sort of Howard Wilkinson's come in and, latterly Ron Atkinson, but certainly that period under Howard Wilkinson, even my dad says then, I've never seen Wednesday top of the league, clear top of the league in March. And I've never seen us win this many games, on a run. So I think as Wednesday fans, we're sometimes ingrained as to protect ourselves against the disappointment that eventually comes. But I think we have to lap it up and enjoy it while we're here.
100%, of course, and I'm loving it. I've got to say, I'm known for being the grumpy one on the pod, and but even
no comment.
even me, I'm loving it, and like I say, it's great. It really is. I get that everything you've said about the buzz, the feel. You're walking in, even like 1-0 at Peterborough, 1-0 against Peterborough at home. Never even thought that they were going to score. And in the past, in the last, especially 3 or 4 years, it's right. What time they're going to score? The last 10 minutes was always squeaky bum time. But not now. No, not me.
Yeah, so, I think the current crop of players, have bought into it. I think.
100%. I think totally, and that brings me nicely to obviously talk about what you think of the squad, your player, the one that you don't pay your money to go and see, but who you like to go and see for Wednesday in the current 24.
I mean, you can't get past Bannon. You can't get past Bannon for what he does off and on the ball, But saying that, you follow Liam Palmer's career from being there in Cardiff, as a schoolboy on books at the 2005 playoff final, the picture of him with the fans, to modern day, I think he's something crazy up the all-time appearance list now for Wednesday. So for me, I can't look past Liam Palmer because he epitomises what we've all gone through in 20 odd years since, the heyday of Premier League times. And he stuck with us. I'm sure he probably has had opportunities to leave and, either drop down to a lesser club or get opportunities to go forward into a different role as with a higher club. So for him to have stuck with us through what can only be described as tough times for him, because he's a bit like Darren Moore. He's had some batterings on social media over the years. Yeah. So I think for me, Liam Palmer, and especially in this period where Bannon's been out a little bit, he just grabbed that captaincy armband and gone, you know what, I'm gonna lead you boys. And I think we've seen a different level from Liam Palmer this season, skill wise and another ball, but just the fact that he's stepped into that role and gone, you know what, like Bannon does sometimes, drag us kicking and screaming up. Liam Palmer's been great at that this year.
Yeah. Any listeners to the pod know that Stevie, he's the big Liam Palmer
fan club.
Number one fan club.
LP2 fan club.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you can't disagree. I know people going, it's not just stats, because I'm sure Palmer's stats obviously don't compare to someone, but it's the consistency. And I think the charity stuff, and a lot of people say the charities runs that he did in the off season looks like it. I think everyone should be doing them. Everybody should run 10k a day. Because
paid well off.
100% is engine. Think what is he doesn't get injured. Oh, I've said it now. Shit. Yeah. Sorry, everyone.
You've cursed it, Ash. You've cursed it, man.
Sorry, I've said it.
Quickly move on.
That's it. Yeah, great player, great servant to the club. Totally agree with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think though, my other like at the minute is George Byers. People
now you're talking. Now you're talking
about George Byers being the next Bannon, the next, because he has got something else on that. When he's playing. I mean, to get him on a free transfer. What we must have had the balaclava on and the shotgun out when we signed him, because absolutely daylight robbery to get George Byers on a free transfer, because he's just got another level. He's got another level.
And after we get relegated.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, Swansea fans, I don't mix with many Swansea fans on social media, but they must be kicking themselves, because he, all right, Championship, different league, but surely he must have been able to play a part in that team that they've got, because he's a different player.
Yeah, I've been really, really impressed with him. Same, probably Volks is coming as well now. He's got into his stride to that midfield three. So I'm going to wrap this up shortly, but I've just got to, for anybody who's on YouTube, you should see what Tom is wearing. So just describe, and this sounds real. I've set this up really weird there, Tom. I've done you here. I'm sorry. Just describe to the audio listeners what you are wearing.
So this is, I'm a bit of a Sheffield Wednesday kit collector. As I mentioned earlier in the pod, I got all the shirts out in the summer, and I thought, oh, look at this shit, look at this shit. And I thought, I'm missing loads. I thought, I'm missing this kit, missing this. I've got the home, but not the away. Got the away, but not the home.
That's dangerous, that.
It sure is. So I decided in the summer, I'm going to start just see if I can find, cheap ones on eBay. Fill the gaps in, see what I've not got. And of course, like all these things with Wednesday and most things as a bloke, these things escalate to a full-blown obsessive collective disorder where I'm now hunting, the rarest of the rare. But this is what I've got on is a 91-92 goalkeeper shirt, the yellow with black and blue flashes. You'll have seen Chris Woods in it.
Chris Woods, that's it.
Mr. Tom on the front, and number 1 on the back. Chris Woods, of course, made it sort of famous. But actually, what a big shout out if you're into sort of football shirts. I have to give this guy a comment, because this is not an original. This is as good as you're going to find, but it's what's called a template shirt. So Umbro, like many kit designs in the early 90s, just made loads of shirts, and you could wear the Wednesday kit as a Sunday League team, because you could just buy this set of Umbro templates. So this is in my size, an XL Umbro template, but it will blank. No sponsor.
I was going to say you were looking well, Tom. I was going to say before you said it was so I'm glad it held off on that.
Yeah, I've had a nice Christmas, as they say. But yeah, so there's a chap on Twitter called Rich Wilkinson. Is a big Everton fan, actually.
Yeah.
But his sort of bio says he's the Ronald Koeman or Johan Cruyff of needlework, something like that. But he's a kit embroiderer in his spare time, and he makes up template shirts. So this is a template shirt from the 91 kit. So it's not an original one, but it's as good as you're going to get out there. So yeah, so it's part of the collection. It's I try and limit myself what I'm buying now, but it's a 91-92 Umbro goalkeeper jersey.
Best thing about that shirt is the owl, I've got to say.
It's stunning.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well,
I had a big debate this weekend with my sister-in-law, who's a Wednesday fan, and we talked about, she went in the 90s, my sister-in-law, a little bit later than me. She remembers Carboni and DeCanio and all those. And she's like, that's the owl, though. That 90s owl, the SWFC on the bottom. It's not in a crest. It's not on a badge. It's just the owl SWFC. Yeah. So for me, yeah, you're right, Ash. That's the Wednesday badge.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me, Tom. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about Sheffield. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to anyone about Sheffield Wednesday, mate. But great to hear some stories from your past and present, and it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, have a pleasure, and keep up the good work on the pod. It makes for these Wednesday fans that commute or get the bus or get the train to where they're going to work. Sort of your podcast and the many others that sort of take this sort of stuff seriously it's a welcome distraction for the stuff that we have between Saturday and Saturday. So keep up the effort, and appreciate you listening.
I don't know about taking it seriously. Have you listened to us sometimes? I mean, we have a bit of a laugh and everything, but no, mate, I appreciate the words. Yeah. Anyone listening, if you fancy getting into the same shoes as Tom and joining us, and obviously you'll probably not talk to me, you might talk to one of the professionals. Drop us a DM anytime, and we'll be happy to listen to you. So cheers, everyone. Enjoy the
Thanks.
rest of your
Have a good one.
day, week, and everything. Cheers,
Let's
Tom.
go.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.